Rob Priestley, thank you for joining me on GV Talks.
Great to be here, Harley, and great to meet you.
So the ballot papers came out today. How are you feeling?
It's been a busy time, and I'm really happy that we're getting to the pointy end of it, and good to see how things pan out, I guess.
Yeah, beautiful. Before we get too deep into it, do you want to let the Shepparton people know who you are?
Rob Priestley, long-term resident, I guess. Grew up out of Katandra and have been away and studied and worked away for a while and returned and built a business here. So that's me in a nutshell. If you want to kind of dig into the start, I suppose that's mum and dad and Katandra and 5 kids. Probably things were pretty skinny. Mum was a teacher, and our first house, everything was cooked on a camp oven, and it wasn't safe to leave us in during the day, so when they went to milk, they'd put us in the back of the station wagons and take us down to the dairy while they milked, and then we'd all go home. They were worried about a fire or something. Too early for me, but things were pretty skinny at the start.
Yeah.
But very, very lucky to be raised in a really loving family that have very strong social views, very giving, very involved in charity work and that sort of stuff. So, it was a great place to begin.
Yeah, and a family of your own now?
Yeah, yep. Met a great girl, and we actually moved back here to start a family. I had a job that I had a lot of travel, and I was overseas a bit, and we probably worked out that wasn't good. If you want to have a good, stable family environment, and given my upbringing, I wanted to make sure I brought those sort of values to my kids.
Yeah.
And so we moved back here and started our family. I think we're probably in my early 20s when that happened. We married young.
Yeah.
So we've got 3 kids, and Sonia's a speech pathologist here in town, and the kids are my eldest is 21 now, so that's a long time ago.
What does your oldest son think about you running for council?
Look, I don't think any kid between sort of 15 and whatever goes, great, my dad's going to be in the paper or whatever. Having said that, they've been awesome. They've really come around and bought in, and there's a lot of policy discussion, and they're really hammering me about, what about this and why are you doing that, and did you see what this person said? So it's been great. It's been really good for the family.
Yeah, great. Do you think, have they helped you with the campaign at all?
I try not to burden, this is my thing,
yes.
So I'm trying not to burden them with that. But yeah, they have. They've been good. They've done bits and pieces for me, and even just to bounce ideas off them and that sort of stuff. It's really good. Yeah.
When did the idea cross your mind to run for council? Not
very long ago. So I have had a lot of involvement with a thing called the Committee for Greater Shepparton, which you might have heard of. So that launched probably 6 or 7 years ago. And I was part of the group that brought that together, and I've been on the board for that from the start, and ended up as chair of it for a couple of years. And, that's really about the long-term destiny of this community, trying to make the place better. And I have really poured a lot of love into that organisation, and it's doing great. But I think that, renewal's really important for any organisation. It doesn't want to be about one person. And it was time for me to do something else. And then I started thinking about the council situation, and if you think back to the bad old days, and I'm not sure how long you've been in town, Harley. How long have you been here?
Only 3 years.
Yeah.
But I've heard you speak about that, and I was wondering if you'd shed some light on it eventually. But what is the difference between the committee you're on now and the council?
Yeah, so the Committee 4 it's funded by roughly 100 of the largest businesses in town.
Wow.
It takes money from no one other than its members. In addition to those, there's about 20 or 30 community organisations, like family care and all sorts of people that don't pay a fee but have a membership and a voting right. And it's about that organisation's about trying to set the long-term sort of agenda for the region, and to actively get out there and talk about policy and ideas. So it's trying to not just represent business, it's trying to be something that does what's good for the whole of community, and if we do what's good for the whole of community, it'll be good for business too.
Of course.
Yeah.
So that's with the committee you're on now, or the council?
So that was the Committee for Greater Shepparton, which I resigned from.
Yeah.
So that I could run for council. So, the council, you're accountable to the ratepayers, not the members. This is all about, a layer of government now, and it's a different process, and it's obviously there's a lot more bureaucracy, but there's also a lot of opportunity. So, so I'm stepping from one onto the other and leaving the committee fall behind.
Yeah. You would have more freedom in the committee to do what you please.
Completely.
But you would be able to make bigger waves in council.
Yeah, I think that's dead right. Committee 4, you can speak, and that's really one of the great benefits of it, is you can speak without fear or favour.
Yes.
Council, you are accountable to the residents of this region, and you need to be more sensitive to perhaps the implications of what you're saying and doing, and how that might relate to state or federal government and so
Yes.
forth. So.
What do you think your obligations are to the people of Shepparton if you are elected council?
It's a good question. In the end, you are accountable to do the best job that you can to take this region forward and make sure that you hear and consider all of the issues and concerns and ideas that people bring, and then act without fear or favour in the interests of the whole of the community. So you must be absolutely fanatical about avoiding vested interests and making sure that you are speaking for what is best for the whole of the community. Even that's difficult because the whole of the community, you've got that generational difference.
Yes.
And making a choice now that's good for everyone but bad for our children, making a choice now that looks after people that are maybe at a time in their life where they need more support. Those sorts of difficult choices, they really come down to those generational choices or income groups or ethnic groups.
What about making decisions with vested interests? Because you don't want to lean too far into that. Like if you run business, hypothetically, and you want to lower rates for business owners, that could be seen as a vested interest.
Yeah.
So you might feel a bit weird about making decisions about that, because of the way it might be seen, or push really hard for that, even though it'd be good for the majority, it'd be good for everyone, but because it's a vested interest for you, it could be seen like, oh, he's just pushing for that because it's going to help him out.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong, the council needs to be run efficiently, and that's probably my focus rather than talking about the headline rates. Rates are an outcome. If you're spending too much money, you've got to collect too much money.
Yeah.
So my focus is on making sure our council is running efficiently, we're driving on costs, we're making sure that everybody's pulling their weight, that the services we're delivering are things that people actually want.
Yes.
So I think if you get that part right, then the rates question becomes easier. If you talk about, that I would push on council rates because I would benefit in that personally.
Yes.
You're talking at the margins, really. We run 300 staff and we have a lot going on our business, and I don't know what we pay in rates in Shepparton. Is it 20 or 30 grand? It's a lot of money, but it's a fraction of a weekly wages bill, and I'm not in it for that. I'm not spending a day and a half or 2 days a week and all that brain power to save a tiny fraction of my rates. I'm in this for the community. That's my goal. Yeah,
100%. I think that's well answered. How would you look back on your time in the committee for Greater Shepparton? Do you feel like you made some positive changes to the community through that organisation?
Yeah, I do. Probably back when we started, the council was in a really difficult time and a lot of disarray, and when, for example, someone from state government came to Shepparton, there wasn't really a good spokesperson for the community. There was no one to meet with and to talk about what the community wanted, and I think quickly two things happened. That the committee started to provide that alternative for government, and that progressively our council has improved over time. There's still room for improvement, but so then you've had a couple of good alternatives to engage with people, and over that journey, that 6 or 7 years, I can think of occasions where I feel like we've tipped the balance when you've been talking to a state member of parliament or to someone federally, and you've made them aware. They've come to a conversation with a preconceived idea about our community or our economy, and you've been able to say, actually, it's not quite right. We've got a really diverse economy here. We've got some really good stuff going on. Here's this opportunity, that opportunity, and you've opened their eyes a bit. And then suddenly you see a decision go away you didn't think it was going to go, and you think, I reckon we had a hand in that. And you never really know.
Yeah.
But I think having all of those parts in place, they really help.
Does the committee and the council work hand in hand, or?
Yeah, to some extent. It's important for the council that the council is accountable to its residents and acts in that way. But that doesn't mean that they shouldn't take counsel, the other spelling, they shouldn't take on information from other people and inform themselves. And I think that's the role of the Committee for Greater Shepparton. I don't think they should be the types of conversations that are going on publicly, and the information is shared, but not that they have some additional capacity other than what your average resident does. It's most important that council is listening to its residents and doing what they want.
Yeah, great. You would have a lot of experience from being in that role, moving to council, which would be making you feel pretty confident that you're not getting chucked in the deep end. Yeah.
I think I'm very comfortable about what it means to relate with state and federal governments.
Yeah.
I've got a lot to learn about council process, but I think there's 700 or 800 people down there that know about council process. So my goal is to bring some business knowledge to council.
Yeah, great. Do you think council is a business?
It's a weird business, I guess. There's some things that you can apply from a business context. You make sure that the place is being run efficiently and productively, but the services that we offer, they're so important in people's lives.
Yes.
And they're not straight, there's not a pure return on investment. It's about people's enjoyment of life and amenity and community and those things. That's what life's all about.
Yeah.
So
Are they hard to gauge, those things?
they're impossible to gauge. But I'll give you an example. I was talking to a lady in her 80s in the last week, and what an incredible difference the library has made for her over the COVID period. She's lost connection with all of her family, and she talks to them on the phone and whatever, but that she's been able to get a box of books that's been based on her reading history, that's tailored to what she really enjoys. It's got her through, and how do you put a value on that?
Yeah, exactly. That's a great example. So you were on the Committee for Greater Shepparton, which you've now resigned, but you also run business?
Correct.
What business are you involved in?
So 20 whatever years ago, my brother and I joined the family business after Mum and Dad sold the farm. They bought a little dry cleaners in town, and that kind of turned into a commercial laundry, and we bought them out, and we were 20 staff back then.
Yeah.
And over the last 20 whatever years, we've just been gnawing away at it, and we've got a tiger by the tail now, and there's 320 of us there, and it's it's great. It's this opportunity to get to know all of these fascinating customers that are mostly businesses, restaurants and hotels and hospitals and whatever all over Victoria, and all of these fantastic people that work with us. We've got a very incredibly multicultural workforce.
Yes.
It's been this really lovely journey.
How does it feel to employ over 300 people?
It's very strange, yeah.
Is it rewarding? I feel like that would be so rewarding to give 300 people jobs.
I don't think of it like that. It's rewarding. I just have so much admiration for, there's just all of these awesome people that come into work every day. They are often in really tough circumstances. They might be, I don't know, nursing a partner who's unwell, or trying to get kids through school, or having difficulties, and they're often mums, but sometimes mums and dads, and they come in and they're happy, and they, it's not easy work, they grind it out, and then when their friends go through hard times, they cook them a meal and they look after each other, and it is an incredibly lovely and supportive workplace.
That's awesome.
Mm.
What is your role specifically in the business at the moment?
Well, we've been doing it a long time, and until the start of this year with my brother, we were leading the organisation together, and really, we were licking every stamp and signing every cheque, if you like.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, we had a chat about wanting to be in it for the long haul, and how do we do this for another 10 years. For a long time, I slept with my mobile under my pillow, and it rings day and night, and you get to a time where
you've paid your dues. Yeah. Yep.
And I probably thought, I can't keep doing this, and so we went through a bit of a process. We went and found a great guy who started with us 2 or 3 years ago. He's been with us, and he's just stepped into our CEO role, and the poor guy, how's this? COVID and him happened together. So
yeah.
He's become CEO at a time where it's probably one of the most challenging business environments we've ever experienced. So he's doing a magnificent job, and as a result of that, I now look after a stable of my favourite customers.
Yes.
And new business opportunities and so forth. But when things go wrong at 3 a.m. or 10 at night, it's not my phone that rings anymore.
Yeah, great. I think that's what I wanted to hear from you. Because my next question is, how does your life change if you are elected as a council member? Because that would be a lot of responsibility put on your plate.
Yeah. I'm unwinding a couple of things. So I've been on an advisory group for the hospital redevelopment and the committee for Shepparton, so I'm stepping off both of those things, and I've restructured our work. So I'm and in the end of the day, I'm sort of someone that I'll just make it fit. So
yeah.
This will be something that I'll sweat on and make sure that I do a good job of it. So,
is there anything that needs urgent attention from the council members when you get elected? Like, would there be something that gets attention straight away that you're already aware of?
Not like there's not a bridge that needs fixing or whatever, but if you think about the cycle of council, good people get elected, they go on with good intentions, and then to some extent they meet the reality of bureaucracy and process, and I think it grinds them down a bit. I'm hopeful, like others that have gone before me, that when I get there, that we might be able to try and find a way to break that planning cycle so that we can challenge some of the inertia that's there.
Great.
Yeah, so that, there's a lot of built up policy, procedure, plans, and you don't want to throw them all out, but it's the job of the councillors to provide leadership and direction and not keep rolling with the status quo. And I think there's a real appetite for some change there. So it's about constructively going about working through those things and trying to meet the community's expectations and push back when it's the right time to push back.
You have to follow the processes though.
Of course.
Do you think there needs to be more transparency between the council and the community?
People want it. It's about trying to give it to the community in an effective way.
Yeah. Because I feel like it's there.
Yeah.
But it's just not delivered in a way that a lot of people absorb it.
Yeah. I think it's a modern phenomenon, that one of the great benefits of working in a workplace with lots of people with English as a second language, you can't use flowery language.
Yeah.
You need to say, things as simply as you're late to work,
Yeah. Yeah.
you're going too slow, come back and see me later, etc. So I think with our government broadly, the communication, it is often a lot of spin and speak around that, and that would be something I'd be keen to push back on. When we do consultation, you might get a document that says something but not really understand the consequences. I think it's council's role to say, hey, and by the way, that means that this road in front of your house might get widened in 10 years' time, or something as simple as that. So, it's hard to articulate that, but that's kind of my goal.
Yeah. But that's how the people want to hear it as well.
Totally.
I think.
Yeah.
Like, people are short on time these days. They don't want to get a letter that is confusing to them, and they just don't read it, and then they're complaining about the council 10 years from now when the road gets widened.
Yeah. So, good consultations about not alarming people unnecessarily, but making sure they understand what maybe the consequences are, and trying to give them access to the detail if they want, but really make sure that there's some punchy points up front that says this is what's happening and this is what it might mean for you. If you want to know more, go here.
If the community did want to know more about council and the decisions that they make, where would they go to find that information currently?
There is, hundreds and hundreds of pages of information on the council website.
Yeah.
And that's a plus and a minus. There's a lot of transparency. Things are open, they're there. But again, it's such a large and complex organisation. In the end, you've got to vote someone in that's going to try and bat for that stuff on your behalf.
Yes.
But when specific decisions come, and they might be planning decisions or development decisions that are about a neighbourhood or a sector of the community or a sports club or something, that's where the council needs to be really pushing that hard and making sure they understand.
Yeah, great. What values do you think would make a good council member? Like, if you're saying that it's a council member's job to kind of be that voice for you, what sort of values would you think would make a good council member?
Look, I've campaigned on integrity, and I think integrity talks about making ethical decisions, thinking about everyone that's affected, making sure that you push back against vested interests, that you're thinking about whole of community progress, and in the end, you're never sitting still. You're either going backwards or you're going forwards, and we all like that nostalgia feeling of how things used to be or whatever, and I think you've got to recognise as a councillor that's not an option. You've got to be planning for what comes next and helping the community get there, and not be ahead of them but not be behind them. So I think they are really, really important in a councillor. They've got to be able to listen and communicate. They've got to be able to convey why the decision is. Often people, once they understand, they go, oh yeah, well, that's fair, that's, if it's going to do that to them, we should do that. So.
I've read a lot of councillors say they want to be the voice on the ground. What do they mean by that?
I think it's just making sure they're talking to members of the community and asking the questions and picking out the information and trying to relate that to all of the briefings that they've attended and whatever, so that they can marry those two community concerns together. Yeah.
Do you think the 4-year term is the most effective? Because there'll be some people, because there's going to be a half new council at minimum.
Yes. Some
people won't know what that commitment's going to be like.
Yeah, it's a long time. Equally, I think the benefits of new blood are you bring new ideas and enthusiasm, but it's going to take some time to get up to speed, and that's a lot of investment in those people, and you want them then to be effective. So, I think the 4-year term's reasonable. Nobody enjoys the election process, but it's vital.
Yeah.
So, it seems like a reasonable balance. 3 years, 4 years, I'm neither here nor there, but...
Yeah, okay. It would take a while to make the change that you wanted to make anyways.
Of course.
You're not going to walk in there and gun-ho.
Yeah.
Make all these changes straight away. So you've stated in a couple of different places the dark days of Shepparton, and like I said, I wasn't here until about 3-4 years ago. Can you elaborate on that at all?
Look, we just went through a time where we had a really dysfunctional council, and I wonder whether the things that went on then, if they happen now, you see other councils in Victoria have an administrator appointed right now, where behaviour doesn't meet public standards. And I wonder whether if the same things that had happened back then happen now, we would have an administrator appointed. So it was pretty bad. I wasn't on the inside. I don't know all the details. I only know what I read in the paper. But, it certainly was a time where we didn't cover ourselves with glory.
Yeah, okay. I was speaking to one of my friends, because I'm new to all this, but I've been reading a lot about it, and I'm really excited about this election, which is a new feeling for me. But I was speaking about the budget, and I could be completely wrong here, but could you tell me if this is correct? Like, let's say council spend X amount per year, and they get that amount off like higher levels of government. Like, it's their job to spend all of that, or the higher levels of government won't give them as much moving forward. Is that how it works, or is that...
You do hear stories about unallocated budget being withdrawn on certain projects. So, they might be allocated something to deliver a particular program, and it might have a use it or lose it element to it.
Yeah.
You do hear stories about that. Really, for me, what you want to see in council is a really, really effective capital planning program. And it's pretty dull, but it's so important, because if you've got a really well managed capital planning program, it means you deliver stuff on time, you deliver it on budget, and when opportunity strikes, like last night's federal budget, you have shovel ready projects. They're budgeted, they're drawn up, all of the hard work, and that might take a year to get all that stuff together.
Yeah.
That's all sitting there ready to say, right, here's a bucket of money from the federal government. We've got this project, and this project that's all drafted up and ready to go, and we can apply for that and do something for our community with it. So one of the things that I'm really keen to make sure is that our planning and budgeting team are A grade, because if they're good, it flows through to so many other opportunities for our community. So,
and they're separate from the councilman?
They're employees of the council.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's about having a really good team inside our council.
And whose job is it to pick those people?
That's totally the job of the CEO. The only employee that the councillors choose is the CEO.
Yeah.
So you're talking about an interplay there between the councillors and the CEO, and the types of conversations we're having with the CEO and what we're encouraging them to spend their time and energy on.
Who's the current CEO?
Peter Harriott.
Yeah. How long has he been in that position?
Pete's been there for a good while. I'm going to have a stab and say 4 or 5 years. I'm going to be wrong, but I don't know which way. And he has recommitted, and I think he would have a further 3 years roughly to run on his contract.
What projects are you most passionate about?
I don't have any, I'm going to build a bridge projects.
Yeah.
I think about community development. I'm a bit of a nerd, and I listen to stuff all night long, and economic development, community development is something I'm really into. And if you look at all of the successful communities around the world that are sustainable, they're doing a good job, they're growing, they've got 5 things that are in common.
Yeah.
And those 5 things are: they've got a good education system, that they have a good health system, that they've got a diverse and vibrant economy. A big one we're missing, or not, I would say we're missing, but we need to do better on, is that they have a strong university presence.
Yes.
So we have La Trobe and Melbourne Uni with a presence here. It's not enough. We need more. And then lastly, that they attract and retain youth. So before, you're talking about what are the projects, I'm going to make all my decisions around trying to progress those 5 features, because those 5 things are what makes a community sustainable and vibrant into the future. If you think about our community, there's some work to be done. We've done some good stuff. The hospital's had an investment, but stage 2 still needs to be done. The education plan, it's a way, but there's absolutely still work to be done. The university's a big gap. I think in the economy sense, we've done a big transition, but there's still more to be done there. But the big missing piece is the demographics. Our youth culture doesn't get much attention from a planning point of view.
Mm-hmm.
So, you look at the festivals, the activities that council run. If I turn up to those, the average age is probably my age or older. And for me, success is if we're running an event and it's full of people 18 to 30, and we've done a good job.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that is my absolute burning focus, because if we don't have the youth culture right, we don't attract and retain youth, and they're going to be the drivers of the next generation. So,
do you have any ideas on how to encourage them to show up to events like that?
well, it's not up to that generation to kind of feel guilty and think they should come.
Yeah.
We've got to make the honey so they want to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about, I guess, looking at our events and looking at the team that runs that, and maybe changing their KPIs and saying, right, this next event, this is what we're shooting for, and that's what success looks like. It looks like a big, busy event full of 18 to 30-year-olds.
Yeah, that's great. So I'm 28.
You just make it.
And I'm always looking for things to do. I think we said, like, you provide the honey, that's good. Like, it has to be something that people want to go to in that age bracket. But also getting it in front of people is another challenge.
Yep.
Like, getting in front of that age bracket's hard these days because the attention's just not there.
Yeah.
How do you think you do that? Do you think having some younger people on the council would help with that aspect?
I hope there's some younger people that are running, and I really hope that they do get on. I want them to be part of it. But it's also about having people engaged in the arts and culture and events team that are of the right age.
Yes.
Or if they're not of the right age, they're accessing that age well. So it's not everything, but it's a piece that we're really missing at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense. Can you share a positive experience that you've had around Shepparton recently?
I think this is a little summary of Shep. We had a couple meet at work, and they didn't know anyone else, so they had a wedding and they invited everyone from work, pretty much everyone they knew. And they're both relatively new migrants, and they're from Malaysia. And then we had, all of the Aussies, and we had all of the kind of the Africans and the Asians turn up to this wedding, and it was this incredible, diverse, amazing evening where there was sort of karaoke and food from different cultures and dancing and drinking, and just this amazing melting pot of fun and joy that I reckon is hard to repeat and you don't see in a lot of other places. And I had this moment where I thought, I reckon Shep does this maybe better than anywhere else. Yeah.
Yeah, of the places that I've lived in across regional Victoria, Shepparton's very diverse in the best way.
Yeah.
So that's an area that I think we're killing it.
Yeah. For sure.
How do you deal with difficult situations?
So I try not to deal with stuff when I'm cross.
Great.
So
Great.
If I'm upset, I'll wait until that's passed, and then I think you want to deal with things as fast as you can after that. So nothing good ever comes from waiting longer than the time you need to get your thoughts together and get calm. And then if it's a hard conversation, you just need to sit down and have that hard conversation, or if it's a crappy job, you just got to get on and do it. So that's sort of, broadly how I try and approach things, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm very similar. Like, you don't want to be controlled by your emotions. It only takes a few deep breaths to come back to yourself and speak how you actually feel instead of let your emotions run amok.
Yeah.
Who locally inspires you?
I think, we talked before about the people that I work with that I see the charity work, and it's not really charity work, but the support that they give their fellow friends and workmates. There are some amazing people. They're not doing it for online or to look good or whatever. They're just these great, honest, decent, hard-working, looking after their kids, looking after their families, and they're my heroes, to be honest. I can't express enough how much respect I've got for the great things that I see happen every day through that group.
Yeah, it's a miracle that we can all get along and work for the greater good. Great. I'm really happy with that. I feel like you've provided some great information. Is there anything you want to leave the Shepparton public with?
Look, I guess, if we're talking election stuff, your vote matters. Have a good think about it. I would encourage you to think about someone that has a positive future, that's not there to talk about their complaints. You need solutions, of course, but in the end, the complaints mostly point back to the past, and we need to talk about the future and how we're going to do a good job of that. So vote for someone that's interested in that.
Yeah, great. The ballot papers should be in your mailbox over the next week, and then you have 2 weeks to vote.
That's it.
Great. Awesome, Rob. Thank you for joining me.
Awesome, Harley. Well done.